Hey, what's up, fellas? How you doing, man? Antonelli here.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How we doing? Matt Antonelli here. Today, answering your recruiting questions, we're going to talk a little bit about athletic scholarships. I'm going to break down kind of the rules, what I typically see. There's a lot of information out there that I don't think is totally accurate. You'll hear a lot about guys getting full rides and 100% scholarships and all this stuff. So I want to tell you kind of what I see and give you a pretty good foundation on how it typically works at all levels of college baseball. So the first thing, let's talk about kind of some of the rules. So each division is a little bit different. At the Division I level, schools have 11.7 athletic scholarships to give out to players. At the Division II level, they have 9. Division III level, they don't have any. Now, this is if your school is fully funded, and not every school is fully funded. At the Division I level, you'll have some schools, like your big schools that you probably watch on TV and are in the College World Series. Those schools are pretty much all of them are fully funded, so they're going to have the 11.7 scholarships. But there are schools at the Division I level that have some schools have maybe 5 scholarships. Some might have 2 scholarships. Some don't have any scholarships. So don't just assume that every school is fully funded, because there's schools at the Division I level that are not fully funded. There's schools at the Division II level that are not fully funded. They're not going to have their full 9 scholarships in Division II. They may only have a couple, or they may not have any as well. So that's one thing to keep in mind, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, let's talk about the Division I level for right now. They have 11.7 scholarships if you're fully funded. The typical roster size is going to be about 35 guys. All right, so it's easy to see how guys aren't going to get 100% scholarships, athletic scholarships. All right, and a lot of people will just throw that number around. Oh yeah, you got a full ride, got a full ride, got a full ride. That's what everyone always says. People say all the time. It's funny how those things happen. You know, people always, whenever they talk to me, like, oh yeah, you got a full ride to Wake Forest, right? And I'm like, no, I didn't get close to a full ride. I got 60-something%, which is a pretty high scholarship, but it's not a full ride. I still had to pay to go to college. So everyone just kind of assumes, they think it's like college football. Oh yeah, I got a full ride. Doesn't typically happen. I don't think I've seen a guy get 100% athletic aid, maybe ever. You know, here and there maybe you get a guy, but I can't even remember a guy that got it. So keep that in mind, okay? The other thing is, the school has to give 25%. So if they're going to give you athletic aid, they have to give you at least 25%. Okay, so they can't give you a 15% athletic scholarship. They've got to give you 25. All right. Now again, they don't have to give you anything. They can give you 0. But if they're going to give you something, they've got to give you at least 25%. Okay. So the team's going to divvy that up, and depending on the program, depending on the coach, depending on their philosophy, you know, I've seen some schools that give a bunch of guys 25%, 30%. I've seen some schools that will give decent scholarships to their pitchers, right? So they may give a good amount to their pitching staff, and then they're going to divvy up the rest between position players. So it just depends on the school. But just keep in mind that it's difficult to get athletic aid because there's just not a ton of it, and everyone always focuses on the athletic aid. That's all you ever kind of hear people talk about. But there's other ways to get aid as well, and you can combine aid. You can combine some athletic aid with some of these other forms of aid also. So there's academic aid, which is going to be based on your GPA in high school, your test scores, and again, that's going to fluctuate between schools. So some colleges and universities can give a lot of academic aid, and some don't really give any at all. All right. And then there's financial aid that's just based on your family's financial history, their income, all that stuff, okay? So those are the 3 ways to do it. And like I said, you can combine that. And so you can get, 30% athletic aid, then you can get some academic aid if you're eligible, and maybe even some financial aid. And so it just really depends. But one thing to take away from this is, and working with players, we've had so many more players get academic aid than athletic aid. there's a lot of academic aid available, especially at Division II and Division III schools, but Division I as well. But if you're a good student, that's a really, really easy way to save a lot of money on college, okay? So again, athletic aid wise, you're battling for these 11.7 scholarships, and you've got 35 guys that has to be kind of split between. It's tough to get that aid, and like I said, then you have to have a school that's actually fully funded. Okay, so don't neglect the other forms of aid, and the academic aid is obviously one that you guys can really, if you're a player, if you're a student athlete, one of you that you guys can, or a part of aid that you can really take advantage of. So make sure you're thinking about that as well. All right. So I just wanted to throw this out there to you guys, just so you have an understanding. A lot of people don't really understand how the aid works. A lot of people just think, when we talk with families or talk with players, all they ever talk about is the athletic aid. And I think a lot of players think it's just really easy to get tons of aid. And I think a lot of families just assume like, oh yeah, we're going to go to college for free because we're going to get all this athletic aid. It's difficult to get. All right. You've got to be a really, really, really good player. You have to be, if you want significant athletic aid, you have to be a team's, one of their really good recruits. Like, you have to be one of their top guys. And there's a lot of guys that get recruited to schools, and there's just not a lot of athletic aid, and sometimes there's not any athletic aid to go around. All right? So definitely keep that in mind. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel. Share the video with all your friends. Check out the description box below. We've got a deal going on with Plate Crate. You guys can click the link, type in Antonelli, get 50% off of your first Plate Crate. Also have a link to our Patreon page where you can help support the channel. We'd really appreciate that. A lot of people have been doing that lately. Thank you so much. And we got a bunch of other stuff down there as well. And that's all I got, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you later.